Welcome back, everybody. It is Business Monday. I'm Josh Fenton. Thanks to Gary Sass, the Money Man, for being on a little earlier. Saul Kaplan, Business Innovation Factory, in the house. Lots of innovation going on everywhere. Right now at fulfillment facilities around the country, little baskets are flying around on automated systems, collecting stuff. Lots of stuff, plastic stuff, electronic stuff that is going to be shipped via Amazon Prime and will be at all of our houses about this time on Wednesday.
It's been incredible for all forms of retail this week. My goodness, from Thanksgiving through here, we're still part of Cyber Monday today, right? So we're not done yet.
No, and most of the
plenty of time to
offers,
shop.
yeah, and most of the offers carry on an extra day or two, so they can squeeze every last cent out of each of us. The numbers off Friday on online spending off the charts by every indication. Continuing to see this massive behavioral change in which I'm not getting in a car, I'm not going out at 3 in the morning. I am going to sit in my lounge chair watching Netflix and spending money.
Yeah, I think there's, it's still a little early to see the total numbers. The numbers I saw, over from Thursday through to estimates of what's happening today, some $20 billion online.
Online.
And the in-store sales didn't decline
Right.
this year. Right?
Right.
So overall, the number's up, but there's no, there's no denying the trend here, which is, we're using online tools. I think the interesting thing is that a lot of it's blended.
Yeah.
A lot of people combine.
Buy it online, pick it up at the store.
Picking it up in the store, checking things out in the store, using online. So it's a good sign. I think a lot of these retailers are getting more facile at learning how to use the technology to change the shopping experience. But still, I'm sure when the numbers are all said and done, Amazon will have taken a very significant
just
share
brutal.
of what's happening.
Is it also, this continued separation, right? If you're a wonderful boutique store in some affluent community and you've got a following, you don't need to be online. But if you're going to be online, you better have tools. You better be investing in technology. Yeah. And as we all know, the keeping up with the Joneses is not an inexpensive requirement. So if you're going to build robust online stores and a system to deliver, free shipping, get it there in 48 hours, et cetera, you've got to have some capital, you've got to have some technology bandwidth to be able to do it. So the Bennies of the world, not just in Rhode Island, they're cooked.
Dinosaurs. I think you've got to do this regardless. I mean,
right.
You're going to, even if you're going into a physical store, they can't afford the inventory to have all the sizes, all the colors. You're going to go into the store, and more often than not, you're going to find that what you really want is at some other location or
right.
in the warehouse, and there are going to be all kinds of options for how they get that to you. So it changes what the physical store is for. It changes their whole business model. And if you're not doing this, I just don't know how you survive.
Nordstrom's, who announced they're leaving Providence Place
Right.
Mall at the end of the year in January, I'm not sure what the exact date is, announced about a year ago that they were going to build these mini stores, which was functionally showrooms that you could go in. Target's recrafting their big box structure to have alternatives to be able to go into urban areas and have kind of a mini Target within that environment where they can pay a lower rent, not have the same kind of infrastructure costs. Just constant innovation, trial, error, lock them down, close them up, build them, scale them, crash and burn them.
I talk about it. My technical term, for this is try more stuff.
Yeah.
But
is that a technical term?
It's a technical
and is that
expression.
Is that trademark?
Like we have to get more comfortable trying more stuff. We have to experiment all the time. But here's my advice: don't wait.
Yeah.
Until you got a quarter left. To stay in business and say all of a sudden now we got to.
Now we're going digital. We're going digital big,
You
right?
got to do this when you're at your strongest point. You got to constantly look for new ways to change the customer experience, and we're seeing that in all forms of retail now. No, of course, we're at the top of an economy, which worries me about what comes after that when we hit the next downturn. But right now, this season, pretty incredible for retailers of all kinds. What worries me is the concentration of how much of their annual operating income did they have to produce in the last 2 months of the year. Right. And then how do you afford all those fixed costs, and what happens to the employment base the rest of the year? If everyone,
is everybody going to become a temporary worker overseeing robots in a warehouse of a million square feet?
Different roles, different jobs, different skills, different models. Try more stuff. Reinvent yourself, the organization, your community. And so it's a constant drumbeat. It's a good time to be an innovation junkie, isn't it?
Speaking of try more stuff, Elon Musk is on his way to Mars. Is he personally in that spacecraft?
I laughed out loud when I read that today. Did you see what he said? He said, there's a 70% chance that I'm going to not just go to Mars, I'm going to live, I'll probably die there. So what he said. He put a number on it, 70% chance. Now,
okay, do the math on how long it takes to get there. I'm not buying it.
A probe. NASA's landing a Mars probe, and I'm sure he timed that comment for this. This is a probe that they put on Mars that has the capability of doing all kinds of seismic analysis, and can drill down, I think, 16 feet into it's the first time we've been able to do that. We can actually drill with a remote probe 16 feet in. They finally figured out the technology to do that, and on the day they do it, Elon Musk says, there's a 70% chance that I'm going to live there. And I don't even know if it's believable that he'll actually be able to get there, never mind to live there. It's unbelievable. But it's Elon Musk.
So is his rule of thumb that whenever things have finally settled down and he's not in complete chaos, he's got to light a match to...
He's going to provoke. No, in the same week, he was interviewed. And we all knew this because we saw the great lengths they went to ship these Model 3s, these Teslas. And so today I saw an interview where he came out and he actually said, we were literally within, he said, single-digit weeks, not hundreds, less than 10 weeks of going out of business. And so now you understand why they were putting up tents,
but almost every great success story. I have a friend, family in the auto industry, and I won't name him because I didn't ask him, but he'll tell the story of a very successful, long-standing, family-owned mega dealer in Rhode Island. They were within literally days of not only going out of business during the credit union crisis, but also their houses going. I mean, it wasn't just, we're going to lose the business and go somewhere else. It's the whole kit and caboodle. There's the famous, of course, story of FedEx, which literally there was a huge shift in fuel prices right when he had launched the company, and he had to literally borrow, hustle, steal $25,000 overnight, or the company was gone. So
a little bit of this, I think, are these. It doesn't help us because we kind of prop up these iconic entrepreneurs, and their stories. And I almost went out of business last Wednesday. Now
I'm worth another billion.
I rule the planet. Kinds of stories. And what it does, the problem with those kinds of narratives, which I wonder how much of it's revisionist or not. But the problem is, it says to us mere mortals, that we can't really be successful as entrepreneurs, right? You have to have this existential crisis.
Well, but there are two genres. Are there the Warren Buffetts and the Bill Gates and the Jeff Bezos who have a plan and they follow it and it's very planned? Or is it the wild, wild west type, or just different industries, right? Certain industries. Listen, you hit software, you're making money. You have a great software product, and it scales, and it hits the market, right? It's a lot of reoccurring revenue comes off of software. You're manufacturing, you're trying to create a major auto company. That, how's John DeLorean doing with that that model,
I think
right?
it goes back to the try more stuff.
Yeah.
I think they never get it right initially. They have to iterate towards it. There's multiple versions of it. You bring me any successful entrepreneur and you ask them about how many times did you get it right? Or another way to ask the question, did your original business plan, kind of pan out the way you thought it was going to pan out? I mean, any entrepreneur will tell you, no way, right? It took me 4 or 5 tries. I had to pivot. I had to change.
Right.
I might have ended up in a different business than what I thought I was going to be in when I started, right? But they were relentless, right? And they kept pivoting and trying and knowing when to walk away from something or to get rid of something, that wasn't going to pan out. I think those are the characteristics of entrepreneurship, that we can all emulate, right? And so we got to be a little careful of these iconic, kind of looking at these icons. But it is true that you have to try, experiment, be ready to change, or else you're going to be flat-footed and someone's going to come around and disrupt you. It's true.
I've talked to last 2 guests. I'll throw it out with you. GM laying off 15,000.
Yeah.
Gary Sass and Megan Decker both said, 15,000. Da, da, da. It's the kind of cars.
What's 15,000?
What's 15,000 full-time employees? I'm starting to wonder, just watching some of the numbers coming out of the auto industry, Lyft, Uber, scooters, and also the danger zone of, in our generation, when you were a 16-year-old boy, arguably the most important thing in the entire world was your car. The idea of getting a car, having a cool car, you had car posters. There's not a millennial in the United States that appears to care about their car, right? Is this a warning sign that maybe Tesla will be the new cool car, but if you're a GM, a Ford, Chrysler, Fiat, whatever the corporate structure is this week, I've got to really be worried, because once these boomers are done buying their last car, I'm in big trouble.
Well, it's about transportation. It's about getting from A to B. And for a lot of years,
But didn't used
we
to
thought
be.
it was only about cars.
But also, it wasn't just about getting from point A to B. It was how we got there and what it looked like driving
true.
into
It was
our
cultural.
neighborhood and what our neighbors thought
true.
about us because of the car we owned. And our in-laws thought I was, good because I had a cool car. I was providing well for my
That's
family.
true. Part of it was cultural.
Were you
sense of-
Richie Riches over on the east side
stop.
of Providence?
Yeah, I drive a Honda Civic, please. No Tesla. Although I did Google at a cousin's Tesla. That was at Thanksgiving on Thursday. Well, the way they announced it. I'm not sure I buy all of this.
Yeah.
But the way they announced it is, we've got to shift resources to electric vehicles and to autonomous vehicles,
Yeah.
which is where the technology is bringing us. And they don't want to get beat by the tech companies who think they're going to take over and disrupt the entire auto
With
industry.
driverless cars.
Right, and we'll see whether that pans out or not. But listen, I don't make light of 15,000 jobs, and it's not just the manufacturing jobs.
Oh, no.
There were 9,000 of them that I think were white-collar jobs. And
Well, but
locations-
the implications to employment, for every direct job in an auto manufacturer, it's 10 jobs in the suppliers and in the network of who's providing
that's right.
parts, et cetera, et cetera. Has
Absolutely.
huge implications up
take
and
a
down
look at-
the food chain.
Locations, right? Because this isn't just jobs in general.
Right.
These are communities these are the major employers. So these plants that they're closing
Right.
are in Michigan and Ohio and
Right.
one in Ontario
Right.
and Canada. You already see the political backlash that affects communities.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? In every one of those things, when a plant closes, when they run out the production of a car that's coming offline, and then they replace it with some other product where that line isn't capable, of making that vehicle, right? Then people's jobs are affected. And where do you go? And now this affects our whole political dialogue, right? Because these are important Midwest states that have a big role to play.
Decide the
Certainly in
last
election
yep.
they did, and it looks like they will again in the next election.
When are we going to see driverless cars? When are we going to be standing in this window and down the road goes, oh, there goes one. Just
Well-
like we stand here and watch
Yep.
bird scooters. The idea of bird scooters.
I think you're going to start seeing them with kind of specialty uses before they're general there.
Yeah.
Certain fleets, right, that go certain predictable path, like you'll start to see them come into that space.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're going to start seeing.
Will it be Uber and Lyft?
Right.
Will those be the first fleets?
Could be, but it could be
Bob's
could be
Taxi
some municipal
Company.
fleet. It could be some, kind of public sector vehicles or buses, like what?
Blood
buses
center
that
or
look more like
delivering.
trams. They make it feel more comfortable. So that we can get used to the idea. But there's no question that we're going to see these vehicles. It's going to affect everything, and the numbers are going to bear out that in the end, it's going to end up being safer than human error in driving cars. But everything needs to change in order for that to happen, and it won't happen overnight, but it is going to.
What's the time?
technology's
What's the
gonna happen.
time frame?
I think you'll see them over the next 3 to 5 years, but you're going to
36
see them
months?
in narrow kind of use cases, so we'll bump into it. I don't think they'll be in general use, but I think you could, over a 10 to 15 year time frame, start to see that it shift to get to some kind of tipping point. You already started to see it, even the new Teslas. For a while they were coming with an option or a package, where you could put in the technology, or have a placeholder for the technology when it becomes available. Probably a little too early, and they backed off of it given their most recent distribution.
Like let's just build them.
But they didn't give up on the idea, I can assure you, because in the end, this is electronics, this is software, and this is learning and artificial intelligence so that the software knows, with sensors on the car and in the community, every situation that's feasible, so they can start learning from each other, and it'll just become safer and safer and safer. And you know what? Someday we'll look back and say, I can't believe we ever had to sit in that front seat.
Yeah, right.
With our attention paid to the road. But right now it seems like it's a little far out there, but I don't think so. I think it's going to happen a lot faster than any of us think.
Out of this year, as we start to preview kind of the end of the year, but staying on this holiday theme of what's going to be the aha? Is it going to be another like last year of, oh my God, Amazon is crushing? I can't remember what the exact number was. 89% of all online sales were owned by Amazon. The next largest was, Walmart at 4% or something like that. Are we going to see that continued? And despite having an okay year, the Macy's and the Targets and the Kohl's just fall further and further behind. Is that going to be the big aha?
Yeah, you're going to see a lot more separation between the winners and the losers. You're going to see more folks go out of business, and you're going to see really the devastation in a lot of communities as we head into the next down cycle, right? Because right now we're in an up cycle, consumer.
Which covers over flaws fairly well.
It makes it look like things are better than they are, and we haven't really built the resiliency, meaning for me, mostly the skills of people to reinvent themselves to be able to participate in a 21st century economy. I think we have to reimagine our workforce development systems and how they link in an integral way to our education systems so that people are getting out ahead, which will make the local economy more resilient. I'm really worried about the next downturn because, like every single upturn, we never seem to make the structural investments and changes, including our own skills.
You're right.
And so it really hurts us during the downturn.
And will we see anyone ever emerging that can compete with an Amazon?
No.
Walmart's obviously making a number of strategic acquisitions and a huge investment, but they're not going to get certain types of consumers. They're not going to get middle class and affluent purchasers. Probably tough to get a lot of B2B that Amazon now gets. I mean, literally everything we buy is on Amazon. We had to buy something today. It was probably $1,000 purchase. It was similar price structure between Amazon and another provider. And you know what? We're going with Amazon because we know it's going to be here by 4 o'clock on Wednesday.
Yeah. Let's just say the post
absolutely.
office and the UPS truck
Yeah.
swung by and
Right.
swung through the hood.
Right. Absolutely.
This past week.
Will anybody, because
Yep.
what's the barrier to entry? I mean, certainly the warehousing is, and the technology is, and the branding is. There's a lot of different types of obstacles, but it's also all out there, right?
Well, first of all, to say that they're going to take over the whole world and be the only player out there, right? You could
They're on a path to it right now,
Yeah,
and there's not a
but
lot
you
of
know-
regulatory structures who are standing up to the Facebooks, the Googles, and the Amazons,
Well,
right?
Let me take each part of that. One, I think it puts the pressure on competitors to do something that's truly differentiated, right? And so now you start to look at personalization and products and production of products on site,
Yeah.
to personal specs as opposed to shipping them the traditional way,
Yeah.
right? Because Amazon will run out the value on global supply chains, and being able to ship physical goods, that are purchased online. And then the next wave is going to become the personalization, right? When you have a need, how do I create products that are to your personal spec, right? And that are going to require more of the materials stored here. It's like 3D printers creating products in your
Well,
own
let's go
home.
back. 10 years ago, we
Yeah.
thought the danger was they need to be broken up. Walmart was going to destroy all of retail. No one could ever compete with them. They controlled the supply chain. They dictated prices to all their suppliers. 20 years ago, Microsoft needed to be broken up. They were going to control every piece of data in the world, right? You had to use them. You had to use their browser. They're the only software. Innovation, to some degree, challenged both of those premises.
Right.
In the case of Walmart, no real regulatory step up. There was more of the threat in the case of Microsoft 25 years ago, but I don't remember any major decision by the Justice
And
Department.
that's the second part of this. What role does government play, right? And when do we start talking about anti-competitive practices? I read today a piece on Apple,
Yeah.
where it at least looks like there could be some actions brought against Apple for anti-competitive behaviors in their App Store, right? And you can see that same thing emerging as it relates to Amazon. This is why Amazon just put a big part of their HQ2 investment, in the Beltway. And
Really?
I think they waited too long to do it, right? For the reason you're talking about, which is the backlash, and antitrust implications
Right.
of getting too big, right? To where you can't compete and there aren't enough choices, and then prices start to go up.
Well, and it's always interesting to follow the money. We did a story this summer. They were not pleased about it, but it was all off data that the vast majority of CVS's money, you can say, hey, it was incumbency or whatever, but was going to Trump and Trump special funds and Republicans over Democrats in almost all the cases. Now, they were the party in place, et cetera, but also you like less regulation, especially when you're trying to do big deals. You don't necessarily, and you certainly don't want to piss off the people in power. So, right now we have a Congress until January that is, laissez-faire at best when it comes to regulatory structures. I don't think a single new regulation has been implemented in the last 2 years. And obviously a president who is constantly talking about the need to deregulate in almost every structure within the government regulatory infrastructure.
Yeah, I mean, I used to think there were clear lines, and and the political messaging, was clear. You knew where it was. I'm not so sure. It's pretty muddled. I don't think either party gets really great grades. Certainly not from me.
Yeah.
In terms of innovation policy,
Yeah.
clear-headed strategies for how we continue to be a country that's about innovation, but recognize the implications for people and communities, and to mitigate against some of the fallout or the unintended consequences of what these innovations mean. But there's no question right now, a lot of these big tech players are feeling it. I'm sure in their boardrooms this week, where you can start to see the political backlash and the beginning mobilization of, I'm not sure exactly what we need to do, but we got to do something
Yeah.
here. I know Facebook's more than a little worried about what's going to happen here. I saw today they got the coveted USA Today Turkey of the Year, Tech Turkey of the
Right.
Year. You know, so Facebook's got a lot of digging to do to get out from under some of the problems that they themselves created. By not paying enough attention to personal, trusted security of our own information and the way that those platforms are being used to drive behaviors for what most of us would say not socially right or good purpose.
Yeah, I mean, I also think it's a lot of sour grapes by a bunch of media companies who are getting pants. They didn't invest. They never innovated.
Yeah.
Some
of it's that, but there's something
a
real.
lot of it is that.
There's something real there, particularly in Facebook, right, which has become kind of easy, to bash these days.
That's right.
That
Right.
is
It's the
true.
favorite
So,
son.
But that is true. But there's something there. They're not being bashed just because they're big. They're being bashed because most people sit there and say they had something to do and could have done more to not affect the outcome of the last presidential election. And people are looking at that and they're worried about their data. They're worried about trusting their own information, who controls it, what's it being used for, and we're starting to really see what the consequences of this surveillance economy, where the way they make money is selling advertising, requiring them to get better and better about every single move we make and how to package and sell that to an advertiser. So I think you're going to see more backlash to it.
BIF. Let's close with a little BIF. Actually, we'll talk a little BIF and then just close up with a little URI basketball. It's
Okay.
a big week for URI basketball, but BIF, what should we expect that's going to be new in 19?
Well, we are really, really busy as we turn the corner heading into next year. A lot of work in the healthcare space, right? This very ripe for disruption given how fragmented the experience is in our current healthcare system. And it goes back to this information and trusted information. More and more of us know that this information is ours,
Yep.
but we can't get at it, we can't use it, we can't act on it, and we're being asked to pay for more and more of our own healthcare. So a lot of the work we're doing right now is trying to, how do you do human-centered redesign of some of these health and well-being models, and how do we make sure that all the technology and all the new use of data and artificial intelligence is in service of us, our families, as opposed to through the lens of large institutions and players. Also doing a lot of work in education, right now.
If you can fix both those, we'll be all the pleased for you.
Full employment.
Let's go to a program that's looking early, that it's got some troubles, and the Hurley era is over. URI is had a disappointing, I would say at a minimum, beginning to the 2018-2019 season, after having, just a wonderful 2-year run under Coach Hurley, who's there longer, but the last 2 years were spectacular with NCAA bids and getting a win last year, losing to Duke, of course, but that's not. Everybody does that. Wednesday they play Brown University, a pretty good Brown team that's young and very, very athletic for an Ivy League school. And then they've got PC on Saturday.
That's
Is this make or break week for URI basketball?
Have they used the word? I haven't seen it. Have you heard the words "building year" in any of the press here? I mean, we did have an exciting year last year. I mean, it was really good. I mean, we were worried there towards the end, and then they surprised us, and they went.
Cleaned everything up.
They did great. I think they're going to have a strong program, but I'm not so sure that they're going to repeat what they did last year, given the place.
So your priorities are healthcare, education. Is URI
basketball.
rebuilding going to be item number 3?
I'm a huge fan. I'm an advocate. I'm a graduate, and so I want them to continue to build the program. But new coach, they lost almost their entire team because it was almost all seniors that we
yeah.
were working on, by and large.
Yeah.
And so, okay, I'm going to cut, let's just say I'm personally going to cut them a
little slack.
A little bit of slack. I still hope they beat both Brown and PC, but we'll see.
I want to thank everybody for tuning in. These next few weeks, I think, are wild and woolly when we watch the numbers coming in from retail and some of the end of the year things. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to Business Monday. A great day, 5 wildly interesting guests. Thanks to Saul Kaplan from Business Innovation Factory for joining us today. We'll be back tomorrow. Kate Nagel will be hosting tomorrow afternoon. Lots of things going on. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks for joining us in the Navigation.